Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and welcome to another edition of On the Mark for today, Wednesday, the 22nd day of September 2021. And of course, this voice is perhaps a strange voice this evening, but a voice that is not unfamiliar to the general public because I've been here on many occasions in the past. My name is Alexis Jeffers, and of course, I'm sitting in this evening for the Honorable Mark Brantley, who is away at the 76th UN General Assembly, which is being held in New York. So he's away on diplomatic matters and representing the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. So once he's away, it is always my pleasure and also the pleasure of my co-host as well, who has come on a number of occasions, and he's here this evening as well. I believe he was here last week. I'm speaking of the Honorable Evelyn, who has always done an excellent job to host in the absence of the creator and the originator of this show, the Honorable Mark Brantley. So, Eric, welcome to On the Mark.
Thank you very much.
And it's good to have you with us.
Thanks, Alexis, and it's always a pleasure to be here in the studios of the Eastern Caribbean's powerhouse.
Well, thank you very much, Eric, and it is indeed once again my pleasure being here. But before we get started and get into the meat of the show, we are still somewhat celebrating our 30th anniversary of independence. Of course, this is a historic month. Back in 1983, on the 19th of September, the Union Jack was taken down, and then our beautiful flag was raised in Grove Park and also at Warner Park in St. Kitts just about midnight on that date, the 19th of September. I was there, Eric. Were you?
I wasn't.
Yeah, I was in Grove Park that night.
I was probably at home.
So I was a part of history. I've been a part of many history in this island. So this is a historic month. And the reason why I preface what I'm going to say with that is because we're going to introduce now to the general public the statement or the speech that was made by our esteemed Premier, the Honorable Mark Brantley, on the commemoration of Independence 38. So we'll play that now. It's about 10 minutes thereabout. Once we are done with that, then we'll get into the meat of the show. So I believe the host, not the host, but the
technician.
I wanted to say DJ, but she's not playing any music at this point in time. So the technician will
just call it M&M.
Oh, M&M. There's some chocolate stuff that we eat sometimes too. Okay, let's do that. We're going to take that now, and then we'll come back and continue with this show.
My fellow citizens and residents, it is an honor for me to greet you on the occasion of the 38th anniversary of the independence of St. Kitts and Nevis. 38 years ago today, by the grace of God, our dreams and aspirations as a people were realized. On that great and momentous day was born the proud Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, a sovereign nation of free and independent people. Our journey to this point was a protracted and arduous struggle. On that road, our fathers and their fathers before them fought and died, but never relinquished their collective aspiration of self-determination. The 19th of September 1983 marked the end of a very long struggle that changed from blood, tears, and acrimony to principled negotiation and persuasion. Our independence this year is being celebrated under the theme Adapt, Diversify, Recreate, Independence 38. In essence, this theme encapsulates the elements needed for us to navigate our present state of affairs and get beyond this COVID-19 crisis. As a young nation, we are small, natural resource challenged, and vulnerable. It will require all of our creative energies, innovation, intellect, and long-term strategic planning if our recovery is to be durable and resilient. Our goal ought not simply to be about a quick recovery of our economy and livelihood, but it also should be about safeguarding our progress and prosperity for the long term. If we adapt, diversify, and recreate now, we will be much better placed to build back better post-pandemic. Over our 38 years of independence, we have made our mark as a proud and resilient people. We have continually turned failures into opportunities and uncertainties into successes. We have punched above our weight in education, business, farming, sports, culture, and all other forms of human endeavor. We have enjoyed numerous accomplishments that speak to our national pride and self-reliance, notably a vibrant and stable democracy, a resilient and strong economy, increased housing and infrastructural development, improvements in education and healthcare, preservation of our culture and heritage, protection of our environment. Today we celebrate our national and sporting heroes, our scholars and creative thinkers, the work of our frontline workers, our cultural identity, and renowned hospitality. Brothers and sisters, the past year and a half has truly been a challenging period for our country. We have been beset with the debilitating effects of COVID-19, which have severely tested our resourcefulness and our resolve. For over 18 months, the pandemic has posed and continues to pose unimaginable obstacles to effectuating our development plans. However, despite the destructive effects of the pandemic, my government has remained committed to the safety, growth, and development of our people and our island. In December 2020, we opened the Newcastle Police Station and Fire Hall. On 7 September 2021, we witnessed the opening of the CCTV Command Center. 2 days later, on 9th September, we had the groundbreaking ceremony for the Mountain Crest residences at Craddock Road. Next week, we shall see the groundbreaking ceremony for Sugar Mill residences in Hamilton. The Promised Butlers Road rehabilitation project is underway. The Bath Main Road preliminary work has started. We have all borne witness to the unprecedented road work being done throughout Charlestown, with the resurfacing of Chapel Street, Happy Hill Alley, Market Street, Jews Street, and Lower Government Road almost complete. We have solved long-standing drainage problems in Ramsbury and Craddock Road, bringing welcome relief to those neighborhoods. We have installed a 400,000-gallon water tank at Hamilton, along with a water filtration system, which has increased our water yield exponentially and added stability to our water supply. The TVET Center at the Gingerland Secondary School is practically complete. Our national showpiece and first ever national park at Pinnes will officially open in December of this year. We have proudly partnered with MSR Media and created a foundation for a film industry for Nevis, which even as I speak is now benefiting our sister island of St. Kitts as well. Thus far, we have seen 3 feature films shot on Nevis and a 4th now being filmed on St. Kitts and Nevis. We have upgraded our health systems and invested in 2 new ambulances and critical equipment to fight COVID-19, including the procuring of PCR testing equipment to allow us to test for COVID right here in Nevis. We have continued to provide financial support and scholarship opportunities for our students studying abroad and those pursuing studies online. We have innovated and reopened our schools, blending technology and in-person training for the safe education of our children. We have witnessed an unprecedented reduction in violent crime on our island. My fellow citizens, an important lesson learned by all nations faced with the COVID-19 state of affairs has been the need for a vibrant and robust domestic agriculture program. It is self-evident that a strong agricultural base is imperative if we are to ensure food security and self-sufficiency for our people. The stimulus provided by my government has played a pivotal role in the reviving and expansion of agriculture on the island of Nevis. We have already begun to witness the benefits of our thrust towards increased agricultural produce. We have seen an increase in our local supply, and export opportunities have significantly expanded. We gave attention to providing assistance to the entrepreneurs engaged in small and medium-sized businesses. We gave them access to loans with low interest rates, customs waivers on business equipment, and training to develop and maintain their businesses. The stimulus that we provided to the construction industry has been a tremendous success. This is but one mechanism being employed by us to resuscitate an ailing economy battered by this pandemic. The waivers, reduction, and deferrals done by NEVLEC and the Nevis Water Department created a welcomed safety net for our people when they needed it most. Over the past year, we have acquired the AstraZeneca and most recently the Pfizer vaccines, and have been able to offer these to our people at all of our health centers across the island for free. My brothers and sisters, the evidence is clear. Vaccines are the best and most effective way to defeat this dreaded and dangerous virus. I continue to urge and beseech our citizens and residents to do the responsible thing by vaccinating themselves and to follow the COVID protocols. There is much truth in the oft-stated adage that none of us will be truly safe until all of us are safe. At this juncture, please allow me to extend condolences to all of our citizens at home and abroad who have lost loved ones to this dreaded virus. As I have done on numerous occasions, I also extend our eternal gratitude to those on the front line who continue to sacrifice so much in our nation's interest. My fellow citizens, even in the face of this pandemic, I remain eternally optimistic about our island and our nation. I am confident that our tomorrow will be better than our today. I am confident that our best is yet to come. Independence 38 should not only be a time of celebration, but it also should be a time of serious reflection for all of us. Let us endeavor to have an independence celebration that causes us to concentrate our minds not on what we receive from our lovely island, but on what more we can give to it. Let us strive to be more productive and efficient in all we do, and to guard jealously those moral and spiritual values which have served us so well throughout our history: hard work, respect, sacrifice, and the pursuit of excellence. My brothers and sisters, there can be no reward without work and no success without sacrifice. Let us look beyond our narrow self-interests and become more community-oriented and ensure that no one is left behind. Let us continue to make our island a wonderful place to live, work, play, do business, and raise our families. We are stakeholders of this mission, and if we achieve it, our nation will continue to evolve and grow before our very eyes. We will be both the agents and beneficiaries of this defining change. On this, our 38th anniversary of independence, therefore, I wish you God's continued grace, guidance, and mercy. May His face continue to shine upon us as a people, and may we in turn never tire of giving thanks and praise to the Almighty for all that He has done and continues to do for our island and our nation. Thank you, and happy independence to all.
Thank you very much, and indeed, there you had it, the address delivered by our esteemed Premier on the occasion of our 38th anniversary of independence, 2021. And of course, he would have touched on quite a number of areas of interest to the island of Nevis, to the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, and of course those who are listening throughout the diaspora. And while I say that, let me say good night to the Premier who is there in New York representing the Federation. I also want to say good night and welcome to all of our listeners. We don't normally would have a large listenership, Eric, and it spans the entire Federation, the entire Leeward Islands, Windward Islands, the entire Caribbean, North America, South America, even as far as Asia, where we have citizens who are there studying in Taiwan as well. So I want to say good night, good morning, good evening, whatever the situation is in your neck of the woods. I say welcome, and we will have an excellent show here this evening because we'll be here for the next 2 hours, and indeed we have quite a bit of information to impart. Well, since we have touched on the independence celebration, of course, on Monday, Eric, we would have had our Independence Award ceremony there at Government House. And indeed, I want to recognize all of the persons who were recipient of awards there on Monday. And I'll go through the list because it's always worthy to repeat and to repeat because, of course, their names were mentioned in the news segment here on Von Radio and other media houses. But since we're here this evening, it's important just to recognize the persons who were given awards and on Monday. So in education, we had Mrs. Palsy Wilkin. In health, we had Mrs. Ernest Manners. Of course, in community service, we had Miss Christiana Smith and Mrs. Vanita Walters. In business, we had Mr. Dexter Harley, Mr. Troy McCoy. And in sports, we had Mr. Austin Brown, For those who are unfamiliar with that name, that is Kala. I always said Kala, sometimes we said Jala, but he's from Brownhill. I played cricket against him. I recall saying, well, Kala cheat me out one time. Played cricket against him a few times.
You just couldn't bat, that's all.
Well, you know,
Couldn't
but
face
I was
up to
batting
Kala.
too good. That's why they had to get me out in the way they got me out. And then in music, we had Mr. Curtley Maynard and also Mr. Carlisle Bingy Pemberton. And of course, in culture, Mr. Elton Archibald and Mr. Eugene Chevy Shiverton, good friend of mine. I want to congratulate all of the recipients, and of course all of them are worthy of the highest praise for the remarkable contribution towards the development of the island of Nevis in all of the various areas that they were recognized in. And the Nevis Island Administration, of course, is proud of their contribution, and we certainly wish them well and would implore them to continue to contribute. So as long as they are living, they're contributing, and of course they would impart some of those values to some of our young men and young women to come, so that we can continue with the future development of this our beloved island. I am certainly proud of all of them, and of course Eric, you might have something to impart as well.
Well, yes, I want to add to that and just to congratulate all of the awardees, and I think they were all of them were very, very deserving of the awards, and I can see the pride that they had. They were beaming when they received their respective awards on Monday. So I really want to congratulate all of the awardees. And as we speak about awardees for independence, we could also congratulate 3 persons from Nevis who are among the national awardees for this year as well. They are Ural Swanston, Franklin Brand, and Palsy Wilkin. Franklin Brand and Ural Swanston will be the recipient of the Companion Star of Merit, and Palsy Wilkin will be receiving the Medal of Honor. So we want to congratulate all of the awardees for those persons who were awarded for independence, 38 on Nevis, as well as all recipients for the national awards, but in particular those three divisions who will be among those who will be receiving the awards come next year. So congratulations, very deserving. And of course we always ask our people here in Nevis and of course in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis to always do things. You never know when your turn will come to receive an award. And even though you may not receive an award, still do what you can to help in the building of our beautiful community.
Well, what I also add, Eric, is that this booklet, I believe there's some copies that are still available.
Yes.
And this have the profile, or this booklet contains a profile of all of the recipients, and it makes for interesting reading. So
Yes.
I would want to encourage all out there. Well, if there are any still available, I believe they may be able to get it at the Premier's Ministry down there at the Social Security Building. There should be some still available, or else copies of this can be made,
Of course.
so that at least we can read up on the contributions of all of the recipients inside here. This is really interesting
And
stuff.
I guess it's a keepsake even for persons
Of
who are
course.
relatives
Of course.
the recipients.
Of course.
Or even if you're not a relative, you're a friend of any of the recipient and you would like to have it to keep, please, as Alexis
You know, the
indicated.
interesting thing, there are persons who would have postcards, those Christmas
Yes.
postcards
Mhm.
from way back in 1980,
Of course.
85 and so forth.
Of
They
course.
still have them in their house.
Of course.
Because there are some persons who, perhaps it's a hobby, or perhaps it's their way to treasure
Right.
some of the items they would have received in the past. And this can be something to treasure for sure.
It's most
So
certainly.
I want to implore anyone who is interested, just inquire at the Premier's Ministry, or if there's one available, if they can ask someone there to make copies of the
Right.
pages, so they can have the information on all of the recipients at their fingertips to refer to in the future. So happy belated independence to everyone. We had a wonderful service there at the El Comido Tonito Willett Park
Yes.
on Sunday afternoon.
Mhm.
That was the state service, and that was well attended as well. And it was indeed, a momentous occasion, one that I certainly enjoy being at as well. So I believe there are a couple of events still left. I don't have the program with me, but of course, whatever is left, savor what is left and enjoy what is left. And of course, God's willing, we celebrate again next year, and the year after that will be a momentous one, 40th anniversary. So we ask God guidance and protection as we move towards those years, and continue to bless this our beloved federation as well, as we continue to build it in a fashion that will leave a legacy behind for our young men and young women to embrace, and they also will have that added pressure to ensure that they continue with the overall development of this federation.
And it's so good, Alexis, when, of course, both sides of the federation can alternate and host the state service for independence, because, you know, previously the state service was practically always held in St. Kitts.
A lot of things.
You know, so, but of course, since we've had the advent of the Team Unity administration, and of course, we are getting our fair share of most of this stuff here on the island of Nevis, and so the state service is now alternated, where it is held in Nevis this year, and then next year we go to St. Kitts, and then we come back to Nevis the following year. So it was a proud moment for us to host the state service.
Share, but I always say our rightful share.
Yes.
I think that is a better way to put it, our rightful share, when it's all said and done, because I don't know how we quantify fair share, but I know what rightful share is. It is what belongs to us.
Indeed.
Yeah? Okay, Eric, let's move on. We have a bit of information. At this time at this point in the show, normally we tend to look at the persons who are celebrating,
right,
and also
some who are in the bereaved
column we want to pay or respect in that regard. So I'll leave that to you.
Okay, well, I just want to say quickly, send out some birthday greetings to I have two of my seniors in my area who celebrated we're celebrating the 80th birthday today. We have Mrs. Concy Webb down there in Hanley's Road. She's my aunt. She's celebrating her 80th birthday today. And we have Miss Sheila Tyson up in Rollins, also celebrating her 80th birthday today as well. So I want to wish them a very happy birthday. Hope they've had a wonderful day so far and enjoy what's left of your special 80th day milestone. And then yesterday we had Victoria Walwyn there in Government Road. She's in the 80s as well. She made birthday yesterday, so belated birthday greetings to you, Victoria Walwyn, and anyone who is celebrating a birthday today, or you would have celebrated earlier this week. I want to wish you a very happy birthday. Hope you've had a wonderful day so far if you're celebrating today. And of course, we normally say good evening as well to those who are not feeling so well, those who might be in the hospital, those who might be in the Flamboyant home, in the St. George and St. John Citizens home. If you're not feeling so well, we greet you. And of course, we normally greet the persons who are taking such good care of you. We greet the nurses and the doctors and all the persons who are working on the night shift and those who are taking such good care of persons who are not feeling so well. And Alexis, over the past couple of weeks, we've had a lot of persons in the bereaved column. And, you know, sometimes it seems that we're going through a phase when you have a lot of persons in the bereaved column, and then you have a period when you hardly have any. But for the past couple of weeks, we've had a lot of persons in the bereaved column. And I just want to reach out and greet a couple of the families who are still in the bereaved column right now. I'm going to reach out first to the Dyer family there in Stony Grove, Brian and Donnet and the rest of the family, Mr. Dyer, Mr. James Dyer. Of course, we have lost Mrs. Alvis Dyer, who was a really pillar in the community. Mrs. Dyer was practically everything. She would have been a principal. She would actually been a principal at the Joycelyn Library Primary School. Of course, myself and her were very close because of agriculture. She was involved in agro-processing. She was involved in politics. She was in the guides. She was in the credit union movement. She was in insurance. She was practically in everything. And you know, she celebrated her 80th birthday a couple of weeks ago. And I was there myself and Minister Brand and from some other persons from my ministry, and she was very jovial. You know, so this news really hit hard. So I want to say good evening and condolences to the entire Dyer family. We also lost last night.
If you 1 minute, Eric, you did mention she was involved, or Mrs. Dyer was involved in politics. She ran on a CCM ticket.
Yes,
in the St. Thomas's area.
Yes.
Some years ago.
Yes.
But of course, Mrs. Dyer has always said that she believes she and I are cousins, and I very, very much so, I believe. But I've embraced her as a cousin of mine, and I want to express my sympathies as well to the entire Dyer family, at least Brian Dyer, who is the director of the Nevis Disaster Management Department. he is someone who I've worked closely with, and I want to express my sympathies to him and the entire family,
Right.
of course. And this is a lady who would have, well, you mentioned quite a number of
Yes.
areas she would have contributed, so we
Yes.
can say she was
An
a jack
all-rounder.
of all trades
Yes.
and mastered many.
Yes.
Yeah, and I want to express my sympathies to her family that is left to mourn, and also everyone else you'll speak about. So
Yes.
you can continue.
Thank you. And Mrs. Dye is someone who I never ever had a dull moment around. Last night we lost another former principal, Mr. Frank Morton,
Yeah.
from there in Clegot, and so I want to extend condolences, especially to his wife Florestine and the rest of the family. Mr. Morton was a very quiet person, very powerful
Yes.
person nonetheless,
Yes, yes.
and he would have made a sterling contribution. So I want to send condolences to his wife, and of course we also lost Teacher Joyce. So we've lost 3 principals, 3 former head teachers in quick time. Of course we would have lost Teacher Joyce, who was also a pillar in the Gingerland and the community of Nevis on a whole.
The school was named
And
after her.
yes, and of course she was one who contributed immensely. Very selfless, immensely to Gingerland. And Abo, I don't know how you did it, but Abo is a very strong individual. Abo was looking after his mother, and even though Mrs. Liebert would have passed, he still had to carry the burden of Culture Armor 47, the virtual edition. So Abo, continue to stay strong, my brother, and you and the entire family. And today we would have laid to rest Mr. Ivan Jones, who would have also worked in the Department of Agriculture. I would have met him there when I started to work in the Department of Agriculture, and a very wonderful gentleman as well, and he's from the Cotton Ground area. We also lost last week, the same time when we lost Mrs. Joycelyn Liebert, we lost Myrtle Liebert, and so I want to extend condolences to Magri and the entire family. Myrtle, of course, was very close to me as well. And we also lost someone here in Bath Village by the name of Emil Sonny Claxton. Condolences to that family as well. And of course, over in your area, Alexis, a relatively young person, a former Miss Culture. As I was telling you earlier on, I could remember vividly when she captured that Miss Culture title, when she was dancing and she was knocking the bass drum for the for big drum. Philippa Maynard Ball.
What year was that?
I can't remember the year.
I think it was 1981.
I can't remember the year.
Yet.
But to the Jeffers family, nurse
82? Was it 82?
Nurse Ermin Jeffers and the entire Jeffers family, and guess maybe Jeffers, probably they're related to you as well.
Cousins, yeah.
So I want to extend condolences to the entire, all of the persons who are bereaved at this time.
Okay, and also over in my area, we had Sylvia, well, I will say it here now, Jumbi Warner. Yeah, that's the wife of God.
God, oh yes,
Nisbet.
I did remember that one. Yeah.
Sylvia would have passed sometime last week.
Yes.
And they say when it rains, it pours.
Pours.
Then you had the passing of Yvette Jeffers, who is connected to the family, of course. Yvette's mom was a sister to Sylvia. Sylvia Warner, or Sylvia Nisbet. But it is a difficult period of time for the entire island of Nevis.
Yes.
I want to say good evening to John Jeffers, who is the father, the dad of Yvette, sorry. And also I want to express my sympathies to the entire Warner family, Vinetta, Velma. I said Vinetta, but okay, I like nicknames because nicknames are easier to remember. I spoke on Saturday to Widow. Widow is in St. Croix. Well, if she don't like that, I'll say Mrs. Greenaway then. And also I would have spoken to the daughter of Sylvia, who is Tashara, who will be coming in for the funeral as well too. And of course, she was the aunt of Fitzroy Warner as well. So the whole Warner clan, I want to say how how saddened I am at the passing of these two individuals, the entire Warner
And
family.
they would have
and
lost
Jeffers families,
Ruffer recently as well.
back in 2020.
Yeah.
Somewhere around October, I believe, of 2020. So they've had a lot to deal with.
Yes.
And of course, well, they say Jesus comes in the midst of the storm to deliver his children from harm and deliver his children in these time of distress as well too.
Yes.
So I want to extend our deepest sympathies, and of course we'll be there to lend our support when the time comes. But Philippa, of course, well, her nickname was Coffee.
Coffee, yes.
Yeah? And you know, when I was going to high school, there was this debate, and I don't know where Mrs. Manners is at this point in time, Lornette Manners. But Lornette Manners always insists that Coffee was one of the most beautiful women here in the island of Nevis. You know why she has this broad face and so forth, and she said those are the most beautiful women you'll ever come across. And I agree with her. And Coffee was a vivacious, vibrant and an active young lady. It's so sad to see her go at this time, but we never know. We never can tell. So that is why when times like these come, it is always difficult to embrace, but it is what it is. God's work is wonderful, and what you can say. Cannot question God's work. All I can say is we can just say it in a very pleasant way, let their soul rest in peace.
Indeed.
And then rise in glory. And I want to wrap up by extending my sympathies to all of the families that are grieving at this time. And there are more which we haven't mentioned, but in time to come we'll speak some more about that.
And of course the Williams family over there in St. James is still grieving as well, from young Bernice as well.
Yes. So there's
a lot of people in the grief column.
Yeah. And you're right, there are times when there is a period of time when we go through these particular losses.
Yes.
And then there you have a calm, and then you have a lot of births.
Yeah.
So it is cyclical in many ways.
Yes.
Life is what it is. And of course, you're born, you live, you die. It's just a cycle, and we go through that.
And of course, Alexis, we are in a very small, close-knit society, so when these things happen, it hits home to practically everybody.
Sure.
You know?
That is correct. Well, Eric, at least we can leave that for now and move on. You would have had some celebrations over the last weekend.
Most certainly.
Man, I want to give you a lot of commendations because you took on something that we initially felt was not going to happen, per se, because of what we had been going through in the last couple of months. But you insisted, and you would have taken this on with some degree of confidence, and have produced a weekend that I feel was well received, because I followed it on the on Facebook Live and so forth, and there were quite a large following, and I wanted to speak about that because it is yours to speak about.
Yes.
Because you were the architect and you were the one who presented it to the Nivision public and the public at large. Yeah. So you go ahead. The mic is yours.
Thank you. Well, yes, as you rightly said, Alexis, it was a huge task. The Culturama 47, of course, we would have gone through so much last year. We were not able to host any Culturama activity last year, and I could recall very vividly last year. I mentioned when I went on air to say, well, the festival is cancelled. I could recall vividly. I said, I'm now announcing the dates for 2021, because we all thought that this thing would have blown off by this year, this pandemic, but that was not to be. And so we had all plans from last year that this year we're going to come back with a bang, and we were going to be able to host everything as normal as ever. Well, the pandemic had different ideas, and so we were on a bit of a seesaw in 2021, thinking we were going to be having something, then thinking we now won't be able to have anything. We had everything planned, and then the pandemic decided, well, no, you would not be able to have a normal festival. And so we had the Calypsonians and the soca artists. They were preparing because everybody thought we would be able to have something. And then, we had the ups and downs of the pandemic. And then in the end, we were able only to get permission to host a virtual festival, a very scaled back festival. And of course, I want to say thanks once again to my cabinet colleagues, because I really had to fight a hard battle to be able to host these activities, because trust me, we know that with the island is going through a phase now where money is scarce, very, very scarce. But we wanted to work with our artists because they had their songs. Some of the songs could not be put over till next year. They had to be used this year, and so I fought a hard battle in cabinet. I was able to convince my colleagues, please let us have this thing virtually. And because those of you who have been following these events virtually, you may not know how expensive it is to host virtual events. It is an expensive venture. And so I really want to thank my cabinet colleagues for saying yes. And so we were able to have a scaled back virtual Culturama this year. It was called Culturama 47, the virtual festival. And the virtual edition, sorry. And so we would have had some pre-activities. We would have had some calypso and soca tents. And I have to say as well that all of the activities, this year was a very historic year in many ways. Historic in more ways than one. This year, for the very first time, the entire festival, it was virtual. For the first time, it was virtual. And for the first time as well, Culturama was hosted at the David Freeman Center of Excellence in Gingerland. And so the entire festival, scale-back event, was hosted at the David Freeman Center of Excellence. The reason being, we were planning to host some of the pre-activities at the David Freeman Center and then host the major activities in Charlestown at the Cultural Complex. However, when we realized that we won't be able to be making any money from the gates, it didn't make any sense to spend a lot of money to prepare two venues. And so we decided, well, let's just use one venue. And since we were already preparing the David Freeman Center for the pre-activities, we decided, well, let's just host everything there. And it worked out exceptionally well. And so we had our pre-activities, and then this past weekend, we were able to get permission to do the virtual events. And so we had a couple events. We had on Thursday, the 16th of September, we had what was called Culture Pot, and that event was hosted by the Nevis Cultural Development Foundation, NCDF, where we had everything cultural on display. And Alexis, I must say that the event was a huge success. We had a lot of people viewing, and the feedback was overwhelming. I haven't heard not even one negative comment about that show. And I want to highly commend the Nevis Cultural Development Foundation, the NCDF, because the thing is that almost all of the events, all of the activities on that night were done by the members of the NCDF themselves. And so you had the members of the NCDF who they did the masquerade, they did the drumming, they did the dances, they did the drama, they did practically everything. And I'm happy that at least I was a part of one of the acts. I was in the masquerade, right? And so
so you're the masquerade, you also had the string band too.
Yes. And so I want to commend highly the NCDF for pulling off that event and making it so successful. Then on Friday the 17th, we had the finals of the Soca Monarch competition. And for those of you who want a reminder, the winners were in this groovy category. The winner was Soca Empress, making history. As I said, this is a very historic year. First time a female has won the title. And then you had first runner-up Delhi Rank, second runner-up X-Man. In the power category, you had Easy, who ran away with that title. And then you had first runner-up X-Man, second runner-up Speedy. And then on Saturday the 18th of September, we had the Calypso finals, and here again history was made, where we had King Hollywood, who became back-to-back monarch with his tunes. And then you had the first runner-up This and That, second runner-up Astro. And you know, this afternoon a gentleman met me and he said to me, Eric, I have a charge against you. I asked him, what is the charge? He said, this show you keep up there Saturday night. Well, I was wondering what is so wrong with the show. He said, this show, the standard been too high. I'm serious. The person came up to me, and when he said to me, that show you keep up this Saturday night, I thought it was a criticism he was coming with. He said, this show, Eric, the standard was too high. He said, all of them could have won that show. And I mean, this is the feedback we have been getting all throughout the festival.
Too high, you know. That's what you want when you produce anything. You want the standard to be high.
I know, but I think he was making a joke, or he was just giving a compliment. He was just
Okay.
giving a compliment, but he
Okay.
was saying it in a different way.
Yeah, yeah.
And so the standard was exceptionally high, and that is what we've been getting ever since we had the tents. That is what we've been getting when we had the tents for soca, the soca competition as well. And Alexis, the persons, the thousands of persons who were viewing these shows.
Yes, yes.
It's amazing. I think when one of the nights when we had one of the tents, we had over 10,000 people viewing.
Really?
Yeah. We had people from all parts of the Caribbean, all parts of the diaspora, and these shows went down exceptionally well. And I really have to give high commendation to Abo and the entire Culturama committee for doing an amazing and a stellar job with pulling off these shows. And then on the Sunday, the 19th of September, we had what we call Fashion Expo, where we were showcasing the fashion designers here on the island of Nevis, and that show was taken on as well by the NCDF. So once again, congratulations NCDF, congratulations Abo and the team. Special congratulations to Kareem LL Herbert. He was the producer for all of these events. And then on Monday the 20th of September, which was a holiday, the St. George's Development Committee had something called Expo St. George, and that was also hosted at the David Freeman Center of Excellence. So the David Freeman Center of Excellence was really a hub of activity for the entire weekend, from Thursday straight down until Monday. And I really want to say thanks to, it was the first time that we are having an activity of this nature. We were trying to expose our entrepreneurs in Gingerland, and I want to say thanks to the persons who took part in the agricultural section. We had Tamby Liberd and his group from Rollins. We had Laurel Smithon, and we had Loretta Griffin. In craft, we had Suzette Sampson, and we had a display from the craft competition that was held among the primary schoolers in Gingerland. Then in pastry, we had Hendrix's Kitchen, we had Ayana Dream Cakes, and we had Estelle Freeman. In clothing and textile, we had the combination of Lorraine Archibald and Shelley Liberd, and we also had Juliet Claxton. In the food, we had Mirthlin Claxton, and for entertainment, we had the David Dynasty Masquerades, the St. George's Community Steel Pan Group, which I'm a part of, from Hanley's Road, and we had the Sugar Hill String Band, and we also had the Honeybee String Band, which I'm also a part of as well. So, and then we had DJ Wenty, who was the DJ. So I really want to thank all those who took part. And I really want to especially thank the committee members for their hard work as well, Joyce, and especially Joyce Movin, Lorraine Archibald, Shelley Liberd, Antonio Abernathy Liberd, Steve Reed, and Michelle Liberd. So I really want to thank you for, coming together and putting on an activity. As I said, it went pretty well for our first time, and we are hoping that that is something that we can do on an annual basis. So all in all, the event, the weekend, the Independence Weekend went extremely well, Alexis. It was very tiring for me, but I think it was worth it. I think it was worth it.
Well, I want to commend you once again, Eric, and I want to commend your team, because team effort is always needed to pull off some of these events. And of course, you mentioned some of the persons already who would have worked with you. And what is most important is that you did mention that this can be an annual thing. And of course, throughout the year, we want to be able to put a number of activities together, string them together throughout the year, so that we can keep the culture alive. You may not be able to have the Calypso show, because of course if we get back to Culturama, but all of these cultural activities where you're bringing the people of St. George's who are involved in the cultural art form, bringing them together, it's a good thing.
It is.
And this reminds me of one of the major events that we normally have around Culturama, which we were not able to have last year and this year. This year would have marked our 25th anniversary of hosting the Herbert Beach Affair.
Yes.
And indeed, that is one of the activities that we want to ensure that we continue with next year over there in St. James once the situation is to improve. But 25 years of having such activity is remarkable, and we would have added an additional activity. And I'm saying this because it is along the line of culture and along the line of ensuring that you're bringing the community together in the various parts of the island. Of course, we would have had a Wind Fest over there in St. Thomas's. They have this St. Thomas Fest. I believe in St. John's there was a a festival that was held there in the past.
Several years ago. And we
several
have
years
Ginger
ago.
Ram as well.
And Ginger
But
Ram
because
is-
of COVID, we can't have any this year.
Right. So what you want all up and down the island is in all of the various parishes, you have some form of cultural activity that is being held throughout the year to keep or bring people together. Because once you have these social events, you have that community cohesiveness, and that
Yes.
is what we are seeking to achieve here on the island of Nevis. From these activities, of course, you can always get your potential Calypso King,
Yes.
or your potential queen, or whatever you're trying to bring out of these activities to actually showcase them in our Culturama.
Yes.
And indeed, Culturama has played its part in developing our young people over the years. So we want to continue to have these activities. So congratulations once again.
Thank you.
And I must admit publicly that I wasn't able to come.
But I'm sure you were
I
logged
was
on.
viewing online,
Good.
and I thought that was the best thing to do at this point in time, considering what we're going through here on the island of Nevis and in the Federation, of course. But the entire cabinet is proud of you, and we want to thank you for your effort in this regard.
Thank you very much.
Eric, I spoke earlier, the Premier would have mentioned earlier that there are some activities or some events or some projects that are ongoing here on the island of Nevis, and some that are scheduled to come online or
Yes.
on stream. One of the things that is going to happen tomorrow afternoon at 3 p.m. is the launch of the housing development up at Hamilton, which is called Sugar Mill Residences. Now, I want to say that we have had this project, the launch of this project planned for some time now. But indeed, the issues pertaining to the land, we would have bought lands from 3 different landowners, and of course you have to consolidate all of these lands onto one particular title. So it took some time for that to happen. But that has been done, and construction has started already up there at Hamilton. It is the development of 3.09 acres of land, and we want to have that launch tomorrow afternoon at 3 p.m. Up there at Hamilton. And indeed, just for information, there are 15 lots that we will construct. There are 15 lots available, but we'll construct on 14 lots because, of course, one of those lots will be used as a green space. And indeed, the lots would range from 5,395 square feet up to as much as 9,323 square feet. The lands were bought at a cost of $872,071.20. And those are the 3 pieces of lands put together would have been bought at that particular cost. So at least 14 families will be happy when it's all said and done. We continue to do what is necessary to provide housing for persons throughout the entire island of Nevis. One of the interesting things, though, and I have to say this, is that I listened to a program last night and I heard one of the potential candidates who will be contesting the upcoming election say that she don't think, and I hope I'm paraphrasing her because I can't remember her exact word, but essentially she was saying that she don't think the government should be involved in constructing houses for anybody. And I want to say from this microphone that as the Minister of Lands, the Minister of Housing here on the island of Nevis, and knowing why the NHLDC was created back in 1984, it was done to alienate land properties to Nevisians or citizens of the island of Nevis, by extension citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis, but we cater to our nationals here on the island of Nevis because on St. Kitts you have the National Housing
Corporation,
NHC. So they have their own establishment down there to satisfy the needs of housing and the demand for housing on St. Kitts. Here on the island of Nevis, the NIA is responsible for the citizens of Nevis. And let me say this, Eric. The government is in place to look after the needs of its people in every area, whether in housing, whether in healthcare, whether in education, whether the construction or the improvement of infrastructure, social programs, which we do a wonderful job of that as well. But in the area of housing, of course, we have persons who are at the upper echelon of our society, those who are on the bottom of that ladder. And indeed, we want to ensure that everyone, whether you're at the top or the bottom, that you're able to live
Or you're in the middle.
comfortable, or in the middle, a comfortable life here on the island of Nevis. Housing is one of those areas that you'd want to ensure that your young men and young women are being lifted out of that particular lower bracket of society, to give them that pride of home ownership, I should say. Once you own a home, I would tell you that you're given that immense power. The power of home ownership is one that everyone in the island of Nevis should have access to. Not everyone will get, but everyone should have access to it and dream about owning their own home. And when I hear anyone suggest to the people of Nevis that no government should be involved in constructing homes or subsidizing the cost of home and land ownership to our people, I think they are in the wrong field. I think their intent is bogus. I think their intent is ill-conceived when it's all said and done. I want to be the Minister of Lands and Housing for a long time to come to ensure that as many of our young men and young women,
Because you know, Alexis,
own a piece of the rock.
you know, Alexis, if we did not have the Nevis Housing and Land Development Corporation, and if the NHLC was not involved in this, a lot of people would not have been able to
They would
own
have been priced
anything.
out of the market.
They would not have been able to own
You
anything.
know? So you'd have had persons up and down the island.
So if anybody could say that the government should not be involved, they don't have the best interest of the people of Nevis at heart.
Well, let me speak specifically about something else that has gotten some negative reviews, which I am proud of. You remember we launched University Heights.
Yes.
The intention, well, let me back up and say, in our manifesto, we did say that we want to keep our brightest and our best minds right here on the island of Nevis. And many persons, when they go abroad to study, they would have to borrow a loan from whether the development bank or commercial bank to go abroad to study. When they come back here, you know, there's some difficulty in them getting access to land because of the cost of land. So we say University Heights will be established, whereby land will be sold at $1 per square foot to any of our nationals who would have been abroad, studied at a 4-year university or college, and they come back home, and at least after 5 years of being back, they will qualify for a lot up there at University Heights. I think the lots are just about 8,000 square feet. So at $1, and then we will construct a home valued somewhere in the region of $350,000. The package would have been put all together by the Nevis Housing and Land Development Corporation. We have had at least 6 or 7 persons who would have benefited from that thus far. There's some lots left as well. But that is our way of saying you'll come back to contribute to the development of Nevis, and since you're back, we want you to stay here. We don't want you to get frustrated and one day get up and say, I can't make a way in Nevis, I'm going abroad to contribute to someone else's country's development. And I am proud of the Nevis Island administration that is being managed by the CCM party at this point in time, when we put that in place. And there's some proud homeowners up there. You go up to University Heights and you look at those houses up there, oh man, they're beautiful, Eric.
Well,
and once I say they're beautiful, it means that the people who own them are also equally as grateful for that.
And Alexis, is not only the houses over at University Heights are beautiful, but all of the houses that have been put down by the Nevis Housing and Land Development Corporation. The owners are so proud when you were opening the area over at Madden's.
See the views?
When I saw the proud homeowners and how proud they were. And as I said, weren't it for the NHLDC, a lot of these persons would not have been able to own a home as yet.
Yeah.
And so the people in Nevis must give kudos and high commendation to the NHLDC, and of course to the CCM-led Nevis Island administration. We are looking after everyone. We are ensuring that you are well taken care of. This is a government that says people matter more and people matter most, and that will always be our mantra, because that is what we do. Everything we do is people-centered.
Spoken like a champion, Eric. But listen, what happens in this development? You have families that are in these housing developments. They raise the family. There is interaction between or among families. You're growing up together as young men and young ladies. There are some pluses to that, in the sense that Each one teach one, each one lean on each other. Be your brother's keeper, your sister's keeper. And those are the kind of communities we want to build throughout the island of Nevis, where all of these communities are working together. A cricket team can come out of one of these developments.
Of course.
A netball team can come out.
Yes.
And of course, if it is there's some competitive juices flowing among our young men and young women, then of course in the field of athletics you'll have them fighting, not necessarily fighting physically, but they are rivaling each other and trying to outdo each other. It brings out the best in them.
And Alexis, as you speak as well, you know, over the years when we were growing up, we had that very strong sense of community, which we were losing. But I believe now with some of these housing developments, you can have that sense of community coming back, because, you know, people were drifting apart from each other. And we are hoping that through some of these housing developments as well, you can have that close-knit, that community spirit coming back.
That is how you build communities. And if you're not inclined to do so, and that is not your intention once you were to aspire to be in government, then there's no need to come. Because, listen, Eric, when you look at going into government and you're pursuing to get into government, you have to look at your track record and ask yourself, well, who would have I empowered since I was on that road to government? Since you've been in government, how many and who you would have empowered? Have you empowered yourself? Have you empowered the persons you're elected to serve? What have you done? And I want to say, based on what we have done as an administration since 2013, for example, because I've been there since January 22nd or 23rd of 2013, we have empowered hundreds of persons into owning a home, and they have their home. And the good thing is, here's the good part about it, is that when I get that report at the end of each month from the manager or the general manager at the NHLDC, the first thing I look for is that paragraph or that line regarding complaints about the houses. There are a couple of persons who would complain now and then, and we have fixed those issues. But generally speaking, by and large, we've been building sound, solid, structurally sound homes. And I'm proud of the contractors that we have and subcontractors that we have worked with over the years, because you go to Cedar View, for example, you spoke about that. Excellent roads, beautiful houses. My understanding is that taxi drivers, we don't have much movement these days because, of course, of the current situation. But prior to, that was one of the routes they would have used and gone into that community just to showcase that community to the visitors to the island of Nevis. And indeed, many of them would wonder, what type of development is this, when they're told this is a government housing development that was undertaken by the government. They cannot believe it, because you go to various countries and you see these housing projects, I call them, that are managed by whether the county or city or whatever the case might be. Some of them are in a state of disrepair. A lot of drug running and all kind of ills take place in these communities. But I am proud that we've been able to build solid, sound communities throughout the island of Nevis, whether it is at Bath, Prospect, whether it's up at Church Ground, up at Hard Times. We're going to start one down in Rice's shortly, down in your area. Whether it's down at New River, in Butlers, and Maddens, 2 areas in Maddens, come down to Nisbet Settlement, and then into Cotton Ground, Cohoon. You also have in Jessup's Paradise Housing Development, and then you go into Craddock Road, that we have just started a new one there, which is called Mountain View.
Right.
Is it Mountain View, or the name is Mountain Crest? Mountain Crest Residences, yeah. And then, of course, you have Harbour View, which is a development that was done
excellent one over in Cotton Ground as well.
Cohoon, I spoke about Cohoon, yeah. Okay. Cohoon 1 and 2, Phase 1 and 2. And then, of course, you have up here at Stony Grove.
Yes.
And I spoke about Bath already. So all around the island of Nevis, we have housing developments. We have a small one that is started again over there at Nisbet Settlement. So we have been bringing housing to all of the various communities, as many communities as possible throughout the island of Nevis. That is a mandate of the Nevis Housing and Land Development Corporation, and that is a mandate of this CCM administration, and we'll continue to fulfill that mandate because it is for us to do. So I'll leave that for now. But tomorrow, like I said, we'll have this launch or this commencement ceremony up there at
3 o'clock.
at Hamilton at 3 p.m. Yes, and we're inviting. Well, the cabinet will be there. We can't invite the entire Davis public really, but it will be a short but significant ceremony that we'll have tomorrow afternoon. And we spoke about the ceremony that was held up at Government House. I had to go back to that, yeah. Because Eric, you would have come into government in 2017, but I want to give the Division public some history behind that particular
Government House,
particular property, because in 2006, and history is important, because what we spoke about in terms of our 30th anniversary, that is history. We gained our independence on the 19th of September 1983. That is history, and everything that has been documented since. Every month, every week, or every year, whatever takes place in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis can be considered a part of our history.
Of course.
Since we have gained our independence. So in 2006, the CCM would have left government in 2006, but prior to leaving government, there was a contract in place. There were lumber and all sorts of material up there on the premises to repair the building at that point in time, which had fallen into a state of disrepair. Would you believe that between 2006 and up until we were able to touch that building somewhere around 2015, when we got back into government, nothing at all was done with that property? And you pass there, sometimes if you were to look at the pictures from then until now, we have done the renovation and repairs, you would understand. But that building represents a history of this island that you cannot let it go down the drain at all. As a matter of fact, I believe it was built somewhere around 1906, if I'm not mistaken. I'll have to do my research. But it was in the early 1900s. So you understand the beauty of the architecture, and you understand the significance of that building. Many governors would have passed through there from the Leeward Islands, and locally as well. It signifies something that is consistent with the beauty and the tranquility of our island, and you cannot let a significant structure like that fall apart. So we got back into government in 2013. Things were difficult and challenging. We didn't touch it at that point in time, but as soon as the finances were available, I believe it would have cost us just over $1.2 or $1.5 million to do the renovation, repairs, and bring it back to where it's at. So when I sat there on Monday morning and watched that building, I said, wow.
It's a masterpiece.
Beautiful architecture. And I said, look at this. How could you have any pride in your island and let a building like that sit there to rot to nothing from 2006?
And then not only that,
2030,
the residence of the Deputy Governor General.
And a significant figure in our community.
Precisely.
And why would any administration allow that to sit there and rotten and decay and do not attempt to fix something that was already started? And I was proud to sit there and have a look at that building. As a matter of fact, if you were to sit in Grove Park, you wouldn't see much of it now because, you know, the vegetation would have grown up and everything. But at least I remember the days of going into the park to watch cricket and sitting on the western end of the park. And of course, it was always referred to by the commentators and referring to Government House, Bath Hotel, of course,
right,
too. But we can be proud of ourselves. Once I would have had a look at that and went into the interior on a couple of occasions, I am proud of what was done. And I'm going to take credit for it, you know. I'm going to take credit because I remember when he was there sitting down. Public Works, I believe, started some work on it. But I jumped in and I said, listen, I'm going to take it on. Took it on through the Nevis Housing and Land Development Corporation, got the contracts in place, got the orders made of the additional wood that was needed and windows and so forth, and had it done. The contractor was Mr. Alton Brown. He was the one who had the contract back in 2006, so we decided to go ahead with him again. And we produced something beautiful. And I want to commend all of the members of cabinet who agreed to let's put our resources into that building to bring it back to where it's at and have it serve the purpose that it was meant to serve, because back in the good old days we went there for cocktails.
Oh, yes, yes.
Upon cocktails, you know.
And thank God it's available again now.
It's available again now. We
Yeah.
didn't have a cocktail this year, but hopefully we can have another one in the future, or many more in the future, because that is what it was meant to be. And you know, that saved the government money too.
Of course.
Because when in the past, when it was unavailable, you'd have had to rent a spot somewhere, some building somewhere to have your cocktail
Over
and
the
so
Four
forth.
Seasons, which was expensive.
Expensive, of
Yeah.
course,
Mhm.
but on a good, cool evening, that is the appropriate place to walk on the
It's a
lawn,
fantastic
sip a
venue.
glass of something and have something to munch. And, you know, I can talk about these things for a long time. But, you know, ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to On the Mark. Of course, we are here to impart information. We are also here to interact with you. And indeed, if you if you are desirous of calling in, we would love to hear from you at 469-1616, 469-1700. And of course, as soon as I open the line, we have a caller. So let's go
Somebody was waiting.
to the phones and say, good evening, caller. Welcome to On the Mark.
Good evening.
Good evening.
sir.
I don't know you all want to hear from me.
Well,
Anyway, good program. You all know who's speaking?
Yes, of course, Culture.
A-N-J-N-E-N-E.
yes, man. Familiar voice.
Well, I was in the shop for a couple of days. I went go clear my carburetor, but they changed the carburetor and they put in ejectors.
So it should be better now.
Yes, so the exhaust spitting good, and it gonna spit good up.
Yeah.
Now, my commendation to all the Navy's Calypsonian. They are on a level, and who don't like it, that's their business. Who they keep it, keep it and enjoy the string, prefer it and wear it.
Yeah.
The level of the Navy's Calypsonian them is so high that I got them between Trinidad and Antigua. Calypsonian, because you could tell the difference between Navy's Calypsonian and Senkis Calypsonian them, except the professional that we have down here. Because these down here, they're all singing on one straight road. But Navy's giving you going over the hump and they're going on the curve, and you bump it, tap your foot and dance when you hear Navy's Calypsonian them singing. And what you call pure fact, lyrical facts. No stupidness about no hammer and no girl. So I highly commend them.
Thank
And
you.
Go ahead.
Thank you very much.
And you ain't hear me for a while and you ain't say nothing, you know. But I want to thank you for the man who you send and you tell him, go to buy me, and I won't treat him well. Don't tell A&J what that is.
Well, I'll keep out.
When I hear the voice of A&J, you know what I see? Food on the table. He sound like Mr. Agriculture, and he is Mr. Agriculture. You could hear the interest he got in agriculture, and the know-how, and the venom he got is to kill the weed and let fruit and vegetable grow, so that the country and everybody could be healthier.
Well, Culture, I wish one of these days I could bring you to Indian Castle and look at a marvelous plot of land that we are currently, managing, cultivating, and producing what we believe will be food security for years to come. We hear a lot of talk about innovation in agriculture, food security and sustainability, but those are some buzzwords. But they mean nothing until you put your words into action, yeah?
Exactly.
And I'm telling you that if you come down there, if I want to bring you down there one day, as a matter of fact, I can tell you we have planted well over 2,000 jelly trees down there, yeah?
Over 2,000 you said?
Yes, let me give you some, as they say, rudimentary maths, some simple maths. You know that one of these bottles of jelly water costs what, $10? One of these small bottles?
Yeah.
The water bottles?
Yes.
Okay.
I understand so.
Well, I will tell you this much. If you have 2,000 jelly trees, right, and each one of them producing, let's say, $1,000 a month, I'm just giving you some rudimentary maths. $1,000 will be 10 bottles of jelly water, those small bottles. If each one of them producing $1,000 per month times 2,000 trees, how much that, boy?
Yeah.
enough money, that $2 million easily. I'm not saying that we'll make $2 million every month.
Wait.
But I'm just giving you an idea
Right.
as to what the potential is down there. And we are going to develop more lands, because there's some lands prior to that particular plot, which is about 40 acres or so, that we are currently developing. There are more lands prior to that, and we are going to develop those lands shortly as well, to once this particular plot take root, as they say. I'm using agricultural terms as you have suggested. But on that 40 acres, we have jelly trees, we have
Wonderful.
mango trees,
I like-
we have sorrel, we have cassava, we have arrowroot, we have banana, we have golden apple, we have citrus, shaddock we just got, we have, as I said, jelly before, we're planting about 2 acres of onion, we have guava, we have sugar apple, we have soursop, we have sugar cane. I can go on and on, because we're planting everything.
You could put up a big signboard down by the dock.
Mm-hmm.
That those boats that just come from where they come from with all those fruits and vegetables you call out. Put up a big signboard telling return tanks we have.
Well, I'm hoping someday we'll get to that, and that is what we're working towards, because we talk about import substitution all the time. We're not going to satisfy the market with everything.
Right.
We just can't. But if you focus on some crops that you know can really be prolific in this environment, we certainly are going to continue to do that. Jelly, for example, I'm telling you, more and more persons are drinking jelly water because of the nutritious value. It is filled with electrolytes. I don't know if you used to follow those old time wars.
Where you can reach there, you know.
That is what they used to use as what you call it, antibiotics or whatever. You know, this drip you put into your vein. Instead of, when you didn't have that, it's jelly water they used to use then.
But I can tell you now, you hear the adjective you used earlier, they have the potential to produce. And once you use the word potential, look out for the products.
Well, I want to give you, in parting, I want to give you a little bit of history about that land, yeah? Eric is here. He was my permanent secretary then. You know, I encourage him to get into the politics, because I know he had the potential. You do it again, right? And see where he is now. He's the Honorable Evelyn. Well, he was my permanent secretary then when we did some work down there to improve. We put down a building down there for storage and the likes. But prior to us becoming minister and permanent secretary, there was a minister and permanent secretary before who thought they knew everything that existed in agriculture. They thought they had full knowledge of agriculture. So they put some irrigation pipes and what's not into that plot of land. But interesting thing, not even a drop of water went across the gut to the land to say, well, make those irrigation lines functional. So there were lines buried down there to the tune of almost $1 million, I understand. I haven't seen the numbers on it. But of course, nothing was there other than some cotton. Some dry cotton was there. You know, going back to cotton culture, you would go into a field to pick cotton again in your life?
Well, I like to see cotton. I like to see the trees, but I don't think so.
Well,
you know why? It take you about 7 hours to get a pound.
and even to get 100 pound in a bag, you had to go get a big piece of stick and ram it until you get it to 100 pound, right?
Yes, I'm putting stone too.
Well, here's the interesting thing. They were claiming that you can get $11 per pound on the Japanese market, right? But they never ever tell you how much it would have cost to produce that pound of cotton to get $11, because I know it is what you call a losing proposition to start with, yeah?
The money per pound sound big.
Sound big,
But it's when you accumulate a pound.
Well,
by the time you get a pound, it's time to done work, and when you reach home, you can't do nothing.
Well, I'll tell you, if you go down to the river, you'll see the couple of bags that they were able to get put together, because to fill up a 20-foot container to send to Japan, you're already losing before the container go on the boat. But people want things to eat. People want things to drink, and I am about providing food for the people. I'm not interested in that type of.
And hear this. Indian castle, when you already come to me, because I got me tomahawk. So it's only me little 4-wheel drive now. You would have to be paid for that to run over, because I was 6'1". But since I using pram wheel now, I come down to 6 foot and a half.
The thing is, there are vehicles that are modified to accommodate your 4-wheel drive apparatus.
Yes.
Yeah, so don't worry about that. But we'll talk some more culture. I think
Yeah,
some
well,
more
since we
persons are
start
on.
to take calls late, I would leave another input for another time
Sure,
and give somebody else a chance to get in and get a little 5 minutes.
appreciate it. Okay, and you take care of yourself. All the best. Yes.
Yeah, nice to hear you all again,
Thank
man.
you.
Yeah,
You have a
okay.
good night, culture.
Yes, okay. Having a good night all the time.
Good.
Kakata on radio.
All right,
Radio.
wonderful.
Continue to listen to
Only the best will do.
Powerhouse.
That's right.
Okay,
right.
let's go back to the phones and take this call. Good evening, caller. You're on the mark. Well, I think we missed that call, Eric, because we were on with culture and the person. But the thing is, that same Indian castle, I'm proud of the result thus far, and I want to commend at least Ronald Banky King, because when I said to my permanent secretary, Huey Sargent, let us put it in the hands of Banky and let him manage that plot of land. Banky didn't hesitate, and Banky, I want to commend you for the work that you have done so far. Full of energy, full of vim, vigor and vitality, as we say all the time, and a man who have agriculture at heart. Continue to pursue, and we'll continue to provide the resources necessary to ensure that we can bring about a model that even tourists would want to go down there and have a drink of jelly water, smoothie, or whatever the case might be. There's a similar model that we have started over there at Catesby, Eric, at the former Taiwanese
Yes.
technical farm. And persons can go there, have a tour, and pick some fruits.
It's an agritourism
and agritourism,
demonstration
exactly.
farm.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's an addition to our tourism product. So we are working feverishly down there at Indian Castle to bring it to that stage. I want to say at this point in time that there are about 100 mancipo trees I'm looking for, because my friend up there at Further Girls, Keith Huggins,
Yes.
is it Keith Huggins?
Yes.
I told him to get me some. He normally go up in the hills and tell him get us some, and we'll pay him accordingly, compensate him for his effort, because those are some things we want to plant down there as well. But the potential
That's a
is
scarce commodity.
tremendous, and it's a wonderful product as well. Yeah, wonderful. So I think someone is on the line. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, caller. You're on the mark. Good evening, caller. You're on the
Yes,
mark.
good evening to you, gentlemen.
Good evening. How you doing?
Yes, I'm doing pretty good. I'm doing pretty good.
Good. Nice.
Yeah, after hearing you guys, having a wonderful conversation, laughing and talking about the good things that are happening in Nevis.
Oh yes.
And I'm saying, I'm so happy that it happened right in my hometown.
Oh yes.
In the land.
Yeah.
And I just want to say tonight in starting, I want to say good night to everybody in Nevis, from Raleigh Mountain to Handles Road, right around the island. And I just want to say my condolences to everybody that lost one member of their family for the last couple of days. So say Abonati, with the show with you last week, Eric.
Yes.
You were just talking about my sister,
Yes.
and so on. And now when I heard that Peter Joyce has passed on to the great beyond, I say, oh my goodness, look at this. But I just want to say to Miss Daya, family, and also all those folks over in your end, brother Alexis, I just want to send my sympathy to everybody. I guess everybody in Nevis know me. They know my voice, so I don't have to say who I am. But this is Harvey Lai, but just still young, getting old in age, but still young in nature.
All around.
I just want to say I'm happy tonight sitting and listening to you guys over in Nevis, making good fun, speaking about Culturama. Because when I was growing up, I was a young masquerade. I did Sweet Lemon, and I was in the string band, in the big drum. I used to do a little bit of everything, and I'm still doing that. Because as you have life, you can do so much.
So.
When you get old, you can do so much and no more. I just want to say, big up to culture. Hearing culture tonight sound like he's firing like an 8-cylinder. So I just want to big up my brother and continue to be strong and be courageous, because God is on your side. We have a good government running this country, and we say
The best government.
Forever. May God bless you, and you continue to do what you can to do best. God bless you. Have a good time.
Thank you. Have a good night too as well.
Okay, thank you. Do we have anyone else holding? No. Okay. Eric, well, we're talking about some of the exploits. Of course, the Premier would have highlighted quite a number of things that are happening. Indeed, over in Butlers, we have the ongoing road project there in Butlers. And I intend to go and get some pictures of those walls over there, and probably put them up on Facebook and let persons who haven't come to Butlers for a number of years, let them see the transformation that is taking place over there at Butlers. And I'm sure the people of Butlers who are there right now would be experiencing that transformation right before their very eyes, because I remember those stone walls going up towards a persistent part, as we used to say, we still say, and also in the area of Etel. Those who remember Etel.
And Alexis, we have to give commendation and kudos to the folks at the Public Works Department. They have been doing an amazing job with our roads.
Well, that's right.
An amazing
but
job.
Before you get out of Butlers, you have to give commendation to all of the construction workers over there in Butlers who are currently constructing those walls and who are doing a marvelous job. The skills are there. The skills, the knowledge, the know-how is there, and that is how we would have pursued government from the start. We said that the development of Nevis must be in the hands of Nevisians.
Indeed.
And Nevisians have risen to the task and have certainly done an excellent job in construction, in our housing development, road projects. You mentioned, what you call it, public works. You remember the former premier was saying back then when the Jamaican company was here, you know, those little roads up at Bowden Park, so they can go up there and practice on those. But I like to talk about history, you know, Eric, because our history must not be forgotten, because what we say and what we do must be brought back on the table for the people of Nevis to remind the people of Nevis. Some may not want to touch it because, you know, they don't want to be associated with it. I want to be associated with any history that CCM has, because CCM has solid history and
only good history.
And whatever was there that was inconsistent with what is the values of this party, the persons are not there anymore. We would have moved on. But I think someone is calling in now, so let's take this call. Good evening, caller. You're on the mark.
Yeah, I'm back again.
Yes.
I forget to tell Cutie, the scripture reader, about the mark.
Oh, if she gone sleep already.
And all the good people in Nevis, and my sympathy, my condolences to all those who lost loved ones and friends. And we all have to go someday. And as we were talking about coconut water, how important and how vital it is to our body. There are some people, I don't know if they're doing it in Nevis. Some people, they carry coconut water to sell in bottle already. And I don't think that is too good, because some of them are dishonest. They are making up the coconut water with pipe water and throwing white sugar. And that is not honest. They must give people the value for the money. Stop it. Because when you rob people, you're not gonna inherit nothing good out of it. You can make you sick. So I'm asking people, those who sell coconut, cut out the coconut in front of the consumer. Done with that. Now we have a problem down here, brothers. And I tell you talk, Harvey talk. Oh, good evening, Harvey. And a lot of people talk about this stupidness. There are some people who do not respect the law, and those who uphold the law named police, they do not respect them. When police meet them doing the foolishness with a motorcycle or driving the car without license, the police stop them. They're threatening police, telling them about they know where they live and they know where they're walking. And they're riding the motorcycle up and down in the street with their hand up in the air. Some of them don't get in accident, knock down, kill people. And those who are still doing it, I don't think those who kill and knock down people with a vehicle, if they had spread the message that they've been penalized for doing that foolishness, those who are doing it now would have stopped it. So I am calling on the police to have what you call a consensus with the nation and see how many persons would vote for the police to hold the bull by the hand with them, they who are doing the stupidness with the motorcycle. Motorcycle make the one and two wheel, not one. And the thing is that when they lift up the front wheel, they cannot see in front of them, so there's where they don't get in accident. So I'm calling on the police them, do not see people doing wrong and afraid to do your work. Once you do your work, then you are not apologetic to nobody for what you have done. Thank you very much, gentlemen, again.
All right, good night.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you,
Okay.
caller. Yes. Okay. So yes, Eric, we were talking about history, and like I said, I am not a historian. I don't claim to be one, but the history of politics in Nevis is one that I'm always interested in, and I've been a part of some of the history that has been created in the island of Nevis for sure. I want to say to you, because the reference was made to the CCM as one of the best government that this island have seen for many, many, many years. And I want to say how proud I am that at least when I decided to get into politics, I got into the CCM party, because I saw true leadership. I saw leadership that you can trust, and leadership that you can depend on. Now, we're not talking here because of any election coming. The election is going to come sometime, somewhere down the road. Because it seems as though some persons are behaving as if election is tomorrow, next week, or next month, or even later this year. We have more work to do as a government. We were given a 5-year mandate, and we're going to run it down to the 5 years until
Alexis,
you get your 5 years to do the work.
Irrespective of when it comes, there will only be one result.
Okay, I hear you, and I agree with you 100%, but we have to stay focused and focus on the work that we have to do. But speaking of history, I wanted to say that this government, this CCM in government, when we got into government in 2013, things were rough. Eric, you were a civil servant then. I was a minister of government, sworn in on the 23rd of January 2013. So I know what we met. We met a dire situation. It was rough. And I believe the people of Nevis would have made the decision to change the government of the day because of the situation that we were confronted with in 2013, or even prior to that. Because you would have had to make up your mind before 2013, and persons' minds were made up. We won't even go into the electoral fiasco that took place that led up to what transpired in 2013. But I want to say something happened in 2014 that has always rested on my mind, and it will stay in my mind until God knows when, because it was something that I believe was an atrocity. It was done against the people of Nevis, which the people of Nevis should never forget and never forgive. They say forget and forgive, or forget, whatever you want to say, but this is something that was deliberate, and I'm talking about
forgive,
it
but you can't forget.
It affected you because you were a civil servant then. Your paycheck was bounced in April of 2014, and it was bounced because someone in Bastia decided that the CCM must be embarrassed in government. The CCM must be put to the sword.
And they colluded with people from Nevis.
Well,
don't forget
course,
that.
there are persons in Nevis who support the NRP who was gleeful all around town. They can't pay their salary. That was the National Bank bouncing our civil servants' check, our pensioners' check, and all those who depended on that paycheck to pay their mortgage, to pay their bills, to send their children to school, to pay their student loan, or whatever the case might be. That was an atrocity brought on the people of Nevis, and it is something that will never be forgotten by me. You said, we forgive?
Can't forget.
Can't forget. I don't even know if you should forgive or even forget, because that is something that was deliberately done and meant to create harm for the CCM in government. I brought that up because there are some steps that the CCM would have taken over the years to ensure that we secure our finances and secure ourselves as a government. I want to remind the people of Nevis that in 1985, I believe that's when the Bank of Nevis was established. It was the brainchild of the late Dr. Simeon Daniel. What is Brantley's father's name? Mr. Brantley. I forget. Irvin Brantley.
Irvin.
Yeah, and many others who put their $25,000 together. Very good. There's nothing wrong with that. I appreciate that, because that was bringing online an indigenous bank, a bank that belongs to the island of Nevis. Because right now, as it is, Bank of Nevis is standing head and shoulder above many others, because a lot of the international banks have since exited our shores. But the Bank of Nevis is still here. The interesting thing is the NRP has always associated themselves with that bank. And you ask yourself the question, what has NRP done over the years to fortify that bank, to shore it up, to make sure that the people of Nevis, not just them as the bigwigs in NRP own any shares in that bank, because all of the bigwigs own shares. As a matter of fact, I'll say the NRP in government did one thing and one thing only, that is to buy 1,000 shares in that bank. But why I'm proud of the CCM, and why I'm proud to be a part of this administration, I was a part of that cabinet and still a part of the cabinet, and made the decision in 2017, March of 2017, to invest heavily in that bank, when we bought 1 million shares in March of 2020. In March of 2017, sorry. Let's get it right. But we did buy more shares in March of 2020. We bought an additional 1 million shares. So 2 million was bought in 2017. 1 million in 2020, and again in 2020, in June of 2020, another million shares. So that's 4 million shares given the people of Nevis, not the CCM, but the people of Nevis a 20% stake in that bank. Why is it so important? It's because it is a bank that is owned by us. It is right here on the island of Nevis. It is a bank that is indigenous to Nevis, and it is a bank that is working for the people of Nevis.
Of course.
So instead, when the shares became available under the CCM, we could have said, Eric, you buy some. Alexis, buy some. Brantley, buy some. All of us could have probably put some money together and buy. We said no. The people of Nevis, the entire populace in Nevis, through the Nevis Island Administration, must have a stake in that bank. And I'm proud to say that today, that the CCM would have done something historic in 2017. Never before at this level. They bought 1,000 before, but shares became available under the NRP. When shares became available, all of them who knew of them and who knew of those shares went and bought for themselves. So they have their shares. But who benefit? They benefit. Who is benefiting now? The people of Nevis are benefiting, Eric, and benefiting in a large way, because this bank has now bought out RBTT. So you go from Bank of Nevis there in front of TDC, and you go down the road on Chapel Street, you're walking into Bank of Nevis. You go down to St. Kitts, you're walking into Bank of Nevis. And I want to commend the management and staff of Bank of Nevis for offering the level of service that they have been offering over the years. This morning I went to the bank, and it was a challenge down at RBTT, well, the former RBTT, because, you know, they have to integrate their systems and they have to switch over, and it's all Bank of Nevis now. So the changeover is a bit challenging, I'm sure. But that's okay. It will smooth out itself someday.
Indeed.
And I want to encourage the people of Nevis to continue to support your own. I don't even think the NRP talk like this when they talk, because some of them who are running for political office were on the bank board and everything. I never hear them promote the bank yet, but they get what they want out of the bank. But I'm promoting it because I am proud as a Nivision to speak like a Nivision and to speak of what is Nivision. And when we speak about Nevis, whether here or abroad, because I have stood up in places, forums overseas, and I speak glowingly about Nevis, I say, I'm from Nevis, and they would ask me, where is Nevis and what is Nevis about? I tell them, well, Nevis is the closest thing to paradise and the nearest thing to heaven. It's one of the most beautiful places on the face of the earth. I've never been to heaven, so I can't say what heaven is. I mean, paradise, you can almost say paradise exists almost anywhere, so that's why I say it's the closest thing to paradise. So when it's all said and done, we must be proud of our institutions. And CCM made history in 2017 when we invested heavily in that bank, and I want to wish the bank well. And I know why I brought it up, because of the expansion that they've done over the last couple of years and the lives that they continue to impact. And I know quite a number of the persons who get mortgages through Bank of Nevis are building houses through the NHLDC, and that is why we as a community, we have to support each other.
Of course.
We have to embrace each other, because all of us, it's like a collaborative effort to make sure that this country continue to progress, whether in banking, whether in whatever sector. All of us have a role to play to ensure that this country continue, or this island continue to progress. I just wanted to put that in, Eric, because it is always something that is near and dear to me, and proud of that, because I was a part of the cabinet of the Nevis Island Administration that made that decision back in 2017. Is someone holding, or we have lost the call? Okay, no one is holding. But Eric, if you had something to put on the table, you go ahead, because I have many things I can put on the table, you know, because I'm going down memory lane. Someone is calling now. Let's take the call. Good evening, caller. You're on the mark.
Yes, good night, Mr. Jeffords, and good night, Mr. Evelyn.
Good night. Good night.
This is a farmer from St. Kitts.
Yes.
I'd like to get a conversation with Mr. Jeffords for a short point in time.
Okay.
This is Mr. Cashroy Tweed. We met just before Easter of this year at the Agriculture Department.
Mm-hmm.
We had a meeting, and you made a presentation, then you had us to go to House of Assembly, Federal
Right.
House of Assembly.
I left my name and my number with you.
Mm-hmm.
I've been trying to get in conversation with you, and it's very difficult.
Oh.
I'm going to be short with what I have to say.
Right.
But I'm asking of you, please, please, to give me a call. Because, for example, I get behind them properly pepper sprayed. It's going to help the island constable getting beat down. And not even glasses are supposed to, I'm requested to wear glasses, not even that I could get from the whole administration down here.
Mm-hmm.
Me cost them between $30,000 to $40,000. I lose out just about to say, go export. Can't. It's a lot of things I don't just don't think. I could have taken up all yesterday night and explain to you what I'm going to do is leave my number with you.
I believe I have your number, Mr. Tweed. I just searched my phone because I remember the conversation we had. But we never followed up. I apologize for that. I'll give you a call in the morning.
Call me.
I'll give you a call in the morning. By mid-morning, you'll hear from me, okay?
555.
No, I have your number in my phone. I honestly recall the conversation. I remember that evening when I was heading back to Parliament after the presentation I made, and I did indicate I'll call you.
A fool though.
Yeah.
All right.
But I'll give you a call by mid-morning tomorrow. Let's have an extended conversation then, okay?
Respect.
I'll continue to take care of yourself. All the best.
All
Yes,
right.
yes. Good. There's someone else holding. Let's go back to the phones and take this call. Good evening, caller. You're on the mark. Okay, we missed that. Let's try again. Good evening, caller. You're on the mark. Okay. So yes, Eric, I was saying to you if you had anything that you wanted to put on the table, because this.
Well, there's always a lot to put on the table, but of course we have a caller. Good evening, caller. You're live and on the mark. Hello.
Hi, good evening.
How you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. And you?
I am doing pretty good myself. Go right ahead.
I'm just trying to find out how long does it take for a response of approval when you put in for a low-income house.
The Minister of Housing is right here.
Well, it depends, because initially when I spoke earlier this evening, I said that even up at Hamilton, we had some challenges with the land, and we cannot actually send out an offer until we have title to any lands or property anywhere. Because what would happen is that if you give an offer to someone and they go to a financial institution, the financial institution, as a part of the security, would want the title to that particular lot that you would have been offered. So it depends on where it is. But if you would have made an application, did you specify exactly where you were applying for that house?
Yes, it's the land right by and the bypass road.
Oh, that's up at Craddock Road.
Yes.
Well, the interesting thing is that with Craddock Road, we have just about 21 lots, and based on what information I garnered from the NHLC, there were over 200 persons who applied for those 21 lots. There are some persons who came in early, some who came in a bit later. What we would have done is to, it's like a first come, first served type of thing.
Okay.
I don't know how early you would have come into the game, but what I can do, we can speak off the phone to see if your name is on the short list to replace those who may not be able to get the finances available or the financing available to get a lot there or a house there. So we can speak off the phone regarding that.
So it was early February, March
of this year?
Yes, but even if it wasn't approved, how long does it take for you to know?
Because well, you said it was February, March of this year, but
that it wasn't approved.
Well, perhaps some communication should have come back to you, but people were applying since last year, because that proposed development was out there since last year, since somewhere around the middle of last year. So there are persons who would have been applying since then. But the applications, a number of applications come in from time to time, and it's difficult to get back to everybody and tell them, no, you're not approved, because for 21 lots and 200 applications, it's difficult to get back to everyone. But what we do, we work with a short list. As we go along, we'll contact persons. But like I said, perhaps we can have a conversation regarding that, because no need getting into the finer details regarding that. But we can certainly have a conversation off air on that.
Thank you.
Because I would really like to perhaps have the persons at the NHLDC look specifically at your application and see when it came in, see what the potential are, and then we can take it from there.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay?
I understand.
Thank you. All right. Yes, it's 20 minutes to 10, and of course you're listening to On the Mark. We're here every Wednesday evening from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. It's a 2-hour show, and normally we can get engaged in long conversations because there are a lot of information that we have to impart, and there are times when we involve you as the caller, so it seems as though someone is now on the line, so we'll engage this caller. Good evening, caller, you're on the mark. Good evening, caller, you're on the mark.
Hi, good night.
Good night.
One quick question. When we do work on the fishermen pier in Charleston, we started.
Well, we don't have a start date on it. As a matter of fact, we were on our way to getting it done. Remember, we did some work on the tender pier in advance of the last cruise season that we had, active cruise season that is, where we removed that ramp that was on the side of the pier and lowered the pier so that the tenders can pull up to that dock to that pier conveniently. The next move was to go down to the fisherman pier. But considering the financial circumstances and that we are facing at this point in time, I cannot give you an exact date as to when we will be doing some repairs and extension of that fisherman pier. But it is on the card to do. But it is all based on finances at this point in time. And we're trying to prioritize those things that need to be done immediately. And of course, we will get to it, but I can't give you a date.
Okay, and also then, since you can't give a date on that one, where the tender pier can be used for fishing in the meantime?
Well, NASPA will have to determine what can be done there. I cannot answer you because NASPA is the one who is in full control of all those facilities down there. Even when the fisherman pier is constructed and so forth, that particular area is under the jurisdiction of NASPA. So what I would ask you to do is to inquire of NASPA, meaning you call their Long Point or even go to the facilities down there at the waterfront and ask a question of those who are in charge. I don't know what restrictions are there, from what time and so forth, but I see some fishing boat pull along that pier from time to time. In terms of, when you say fishing, you mean throwing out a line or something?
Going through a line, yeah.
Yeah, that part I would say have some inquiries in person down there at the waterfront with the office down there. I think Mr. Kenny Warner is one of the persons who is in charge. I'm not so sure if Ken Pemberton is still there, but I know Kenny Warner is someone you'd want to have a conversation with, and then they will give you the necessary protocols and what are the do's and the don'ts.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, fair enough. Have a good evening. Let's go back to the phone and take this call. Okay, no one is waiting. So, Eric, this is your time now.
Alexis, I think it would be a bit remiss of us if we come and host the program tonight and we do not encourage our people in Nevis and in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis to continue to adhere to the protocols. We are going through a pandemic, and not only that, we have to, it is our responsibility as well to continue to encourage persons to get vaccinated. We were in the federal cabinet yesterday, and I felt bad when Dr. Wilkinson gave some figures, and he said for Nevis we had 0 persons who got vaccinated. We got 0 persons who got vaccinated in Nevis, and I think the evidence is clear from all these months that we've been going through the pandemic, and since the vaccination would have started, Alexis, every time you listen to the news, I was listening to the news, I think it was only this afternoon, and I can't remember which island, I think it was St. Lucia, on the regional news, they were giving a report about St. Lucia. And they were saying that 96% of the persons who have been hospitalized in St. Lucia, 96% of the persons who have been hospitalized from COVID are persons who have been unvaccinated. And the news items was simply saying, listen, the evidence is clear that vaccination works and vaccination saves lives. And irrespective of all of the crap, all of the misinformation that is out there on social media, the evidence is overwhelming that vaccination is helping, and it's helping to save lives. The evidence is there, coming from the US, it's coming from the Caribbean, it's coming from right here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. Whenever you have a COVID-19 briefing, the evidence is suggesting that the majority, the overwhelming majority of persons who are sick, who have contracted COVID, who have been hospitalized, who have died, the overwhelming majority of persons who have not been vaccinated. And so we are asking, we are begging, we continue to plead that to help yourselves, to help the country, we now have an alternative. Some persons said they were waiting for an alternative vaccine. We have an alternative now, and we're asking persons, including our students, because you realize now that every now and then you hear as class has to be transitioned to virtual learning, and it is because students and children are now becoming infected as well. And so we are asking persons to please consider to take the vaccine. We have a caller online. Good evening, caller. Hello. Caller has left. We have another caller. Good evening, caller. You're live on the mark.
Yes, since somebody want to call, let me call. Now tonight you hurt a man so foot on the elbow.
With what?
You you were talking about something that was said last night on Talks That Get Results.
It wasn't me, it was Alexis.
About what a potential politician said last night. And I heard the politician. I don't remember if I can quote the words exactly how it was said, but it meant this: that no government have no right building no house for nobody. Now, what does that tell the people who are listening? That individual do not care about the people. They care about fooling the people, using them to fool them, to put them there, and then they just brush them away. Now, when a child wake up in the morning, the first place the child look at is the mother face. Before what? He wants something to go in his mouth. So what the mother can tell it? Are you supposed to provide for you? No, the government is supposed to say about the people of the country. Whether you have it yes or not, there are certain things is left to the individual to get for themselves. But I ain't too surprised with them kind of statement, because anybody gonna support a government who try to starve a whole island of people by bouncing the paycheck, and you're gonna watch that, and you're gonna hug them up and say them are nice people, so them is the best thing for Nevis to go vote for them. You all have a good night till next week.
Well,
thank you very much, Culture.
They have this mantra, NRP is best for Nevis, but I don't say NRP is best to keep it from.
And I was listening to a song as well this afternoon. As Culture was just talking, I was listening to a song as well this afternoon, Alexis, where Calypsonian was talking about the hundreds of persons on Nevis who were taken off the list unceremoniously, and they couldn't vote.
We'll get into that because there's some people out there who are still hurting from that.
Of course.
Okay, let's take this call. Good evening, caller. You're on the mark.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Mr. Jeffers.
Yes.
One question. When will the low-income houses will begin or start in Rices?
Well, I mentioned to the minister here and the representative for St. George's that we're coming down there. Hopefully by November we should be down there. We did some clearing already, and we had some delays, and we're trying to work out some issues, and then we'll be down there by November. We'll have our launch of that project.
So you always go by like first come, first serve basis?
Well, I said it before, but it is always fair. If someone comes in first, you give them a chance. Someone comes in second, you give them a chance. It is like that, yes, but we'll give chances to, at least 9 persons down there.
Oh, because for a person that I know I put in a form there. Long time.
Okay. Well, if you put it in a long time, I'm sure you're in the. I'm hoping, for your sake, that you're in the numbers that we have.
Okay then.
But you stay tuned. We'll be in touch. Yeah.
Okay then. Thank you.
Okay, good. So, Eric, before we... Oh, someone else is calling. Good evening, caller. You're on the mark. Oh, we missed that one. Let's try again. No one. Okay, so you were talking about the vaccination process. And listen, you and I were in the first batch of persons who would have taken the vaccine. And, of course, we continue to encourage our people to get vaccinated. It is your... chance to fight this virus.
Best chance.
Along with the protocols that you've been asked to adhere to, because some persons seem to think that once you get this vaccine, you can drop all of the necessary protocols that you've been asked to adhere to. Not wash your hands, but sanitize your hands, wear your mask,
wear it properly.
And wear it properly too.
Yes.
These things still has to be adhered to in order to have that fighting chance. Yeah? And I want to encourage as many persons out there at this stage to still go on out and get vaccinated. We now have the Pfizer.
Yes.
When the AstraZeneca was being administered, persons would have said that we're waiting for the next option.
Some persons said they were waiting for Pfizer. Well, and now it says some persons are still not showing up.
People are still continuing to move the goalposts, and I'm saying to persons out there, people are dying every day from this virus. It is a known fact. And it is also a known fact that if you're vaccinated and adhering to the protocols, that gives you a much more
and
sorry?
A much better chance.
A much better chance.
But what I was about to say, Alexis, is that, when we saw certain things happening in the U.S., we didn't think it could happen in the Caribbean. But when I was listening to the news for Grenada yesterday, they were saying that in Grenada now, when you die, you have to be either be buried or cremated within 72 hours.
It's bad in
Grenada. It is very bad in Grenada.
And we don't
within
want
72 hours. That's a Caribbean neighbor. But we don't have a call online.
But they had some. But they had some activities there in the recent months. I think some jab story.
Yes.
Where they were being defiant, so to speak.
Right.
And when we continue to defy the rules and defy what is expected or defy what is established as the rules, I should say, then these are the things that can happen. So we're asking our people to be cognizant of the fact that persons are dying from this disease.
And it can happen here.
It can happen here. We don't want it to happen here because we're doing an excellent job up until May of this year.
My little...
someone is on?
Yes.
Good evening, Paul. You're on the mark.
Here, time gone. People used to have a lot of respect for others.
Yes.
But nowadays, it doesn't matter what you tell people. People seem to have no respect for themselves, and I think that is the reason why. Other people wants to walk all over others because they do not have any respect for themselves. If you have respect for yourself, you respect the rest of the public. Am I right?
Yes, you're correct.
Thank you very much. And have a good night.
Thank you. Have a good night as well. So as I said, Alexis, they were saying that in Grenada, the morgues were running out of space. Could you imagine that? In the Caribbean.
Well, Eric, for the last few minutes, let's see if we can accommodate a couple of calls. You had someone? Okay. So the thing is, the bottom line is persons perhaps are not taking the virus seriously still, or they're being educated by some internet doctors. And I say internet doctors because it seems like people are turning to the internet for their information. When the trained professionals are telling you what needs to be done and what you must do, they're telling you on the street, oh, this is the case, and they wouldn't have gone to any school anyway.
Precisely.
But I have stopped listening, because I've done the right thing. You have done the right thing, and many persons out there, over 70% of the persons out there in the general public, in the Federation that is, have done the right thing, and we're encouraging that small segment or section of persons or percentage of persons who haven't gone. We're encouraging you to go because that is the fighting chance you need to survive this virus, because it is not going to get any easier if we don't do what is necessary as a people. I want to be around to speak to all of who are listening to me at this point in time in years to come. How would that happen? Let us continue to do the right thing, adhere to the protocols, and the most important thing is to get vaccinated. Vaccination has been administered for many years, And I have vaccination walking around even prior to the AstraZeneca that I took, and I'm still here strong and healthy and moving forward and hoping to fight any subsequent virus as well once the necessary health checks are done and steps are taken. I intend to, with the help of God, fight on for another day. We have someone holding as well. Let's go to the phones and take this call. Good evening, caller. You're on the mark.
You said you had the last 2 minutes, 30 seconds out of it. I got the solution for the corona, you know.
Oh, yeah?
We're going to put the sun and the moon in eclipse. And you ain't going to see where you're going. You can drop down in the sea and drown, and that's the end of it.
Oh, I thought you were going to say when you have the eclipse and the place go dark, you'll go around and vaccinate all who are not taking it.
Oh, and then you say, you catch you.
Okay, good. Okay. All right, Culture, your light moment for this evening. Thank you. Let's go back to the phone. Good evening, caller. You're on the mark. Okay, we missed that one. Let's try again. No? Okay, Eric, we're just a few minutes before the end of the show this evening. But, of course, we're wrapping up with this appeal to the general public or those out there who haven't gone and taken this this vaccine. Now, we have a situation where you have to call and make an appointment because there are 12 shots available in the AstraZeneca in a vial. So at least you have to be done in batches of 12. So it's important to make that appointment. Pfizer, to make that appointment so that at least you can be protected. We have another caller before we wrap up. Good evening, caller. You're on the mark.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening,
caller.
Yeah, it's been on my mind. I heard of the passing of Mrs. Dyer, and the gentleman spoke about it.
Yes.
I'm not quite sure if you mentioned, I think it's worth mentioning that Mrs. Dyer, among the many things that she would have done in this community, she represented the CCF over in St. Thomas's some years ago. I don't know if you was mentioned.
Alexis did mention that.
I mentioned it.
Oh. All right. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. You have a good night.
Okay.
You too.
Okay.
So the caller was reminding us of some history, which is always important. Like I said, I started off by saying we have a lot of history, a lot of rich history in this political party called this Concerned Citizens Movement. As a matter of fact, Nurse Jean Harris, the first ever elected female elected representative here on the island of Nevis. She would have served for 10 years in the Nevis Island Assembly, Minister of Health. Nurse Jean, good evening. Nurse Jean is over there in Brickhill. She like to stay in her little corner and operate with some obscurity, but I'm calling your name tonight and letting the whole world know that you're over there in Brickhill, Nurse Jean. Good evening to you. I hope your night is going well. I'll come and look you up soon.
Yes, but Alexis, as I said, we need to underscore the importance of this vaccination thing because we realize now that we have 10 deaths. 10. And that's a lot for a small island nation like St. Kitts and Nevis. I mean,
it's one too many.
And of course, I mean, I know sometimes in Antigua you're having something more like 3-4 deaths per day. I mean, these are small island nations, and I mean, one death is
what
way
I don't
too many.
want, Eric, is people to get comfortable with these deaths and think that it's someone.
People
else
seem to have already gotten comfortable, and it's not good.
To hit to the core of people to let them know that you don't necessarily have to die from this virus.
No,
you have the tools, you have the answer in the sense that, and don't get me wrong, nobody out there quote me and think that the vaccine alone in and of itself can save your life.
But it helps.
Because there are persons who would have taken the vaccine and would have had other underlying conditions that would have contributed to their death. But what I'm saying is that the science is saying once you take this vaccine, it gives you that fighting chance.
Yes.
And coupled with adhering to the protocols, you have an even greater chance of surviving if you're to be impacted or affected by this virus. So let us encourage persons to continue to sanitize your hands.
Yes.
B, continue to wear your mask and wear it properly.
Yes.
And C, continue to adhere to social distancing suggestions and measures. And of course, the most important thing, to go and get vaccinated so that you can have all of the tools necessary to fight this deadly virus. Nothing like this has ever hit this earth.
Never.
Oh, well, it may have happened back in 1918 or 19, whenever they said. I can't.
But in our lifetime, Alexis,
but in
this
my
is the worst
lifetime,
that we have
I've never seen anything like this before. So I'm experiencing it now, and I will have some history to tell at some point. But I don't want it to be said that Nevis, the citizens of Nevis who have not been vaccinated as well, didn't go and do it and would have succumbed. I don't want that to be the case. I want you to go, get your vaccine, get vaccinated, and give yourself that fighting chance. Eric, you have any parting word?
Well, we love you, we care for you, and we want you to be safe. Please do the right thing. Please get vaccinated. Save yourselves. Save your country. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you. And that's the end of the show for this evening. It was our pleasure being here, myself and Eric Evelyn. This show will be rebroadcast tomorrow afternoon at 1 p.m. right here on the Caribbean's only powerhouse, 860 a.m. and 93.7 FM. So you can catch us on in two ways, that is. So with that being said, have yourself a pleasant night's rest. Join us again next week, same time, same place, for another edition of On the Mark. Good evening, and have yourself a pleasant night's rest.
Good night. God bless.
The views and opinions expressed on the preceding program were solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Nevis Broadcasting Company.